Hi guys, welcome to Geek Coding Academy. Today we'll see basic syntax and fundamentals of Java in that subchapter control flow statements. So let's share my screen. Okay. So yeah, let's we'll see basic syntax and fundamentals of Java. So in that we have already covered variables and data types and operators. If you have not watched that, please watch our previous video in my channel. So now we'll start on control flow statements. So what do you mean by control flow statements? So control flow statement are nothing but that was the direction we given or direction we write in a programming such that the program control flow will act like that. Like it is a direction we give for the program execution. Okay. These will allow our program to make a decision and repeat actions or exit the program execution based on specific conditions. Okay. So if you want to be a good developer, you need to master these flow control statements so that you can know how to handle your program for different inputs or different data so that your program behaves based on different inputs and conditions. Okay. So in control flow statements, we have three. One is conditional statements, and second one is looping statements, and third one is a branching statements. So we'll see what all these. First, we'll see what is conditional statements. Okay. So conditional statement means it's nothing but there will be a certain condition. So based on that, the code will work. Means like the statements we use certain statements used to perform different action based on different conditions. Suppose like I write on condition in my program. If that condition met, if the input data met that condition, only that block of code will execute, and the contrary part of that block of code will not execute. Okay. So in conditional statement, we have four types. Like if statement, if you have only one condition and if the condition met, the block of code should execute. If your goal is like that, you can go for if or if else. If else means like I have a condition, like if condition is met, this block of code should execute, or if that condition is doesn't met, the remaining block of code should execute. In that case, we can go for if else. Or if I have a multiple conditions, uh, not only a single condition, if I have a multiple condition, then I go for an else if like nested if case, that is if and finally else. Or if I have a more than one condition, means many conditions has to be met, then I can go with the switch case statements. Let's see one by one what all these. First is if condition, if statement. The if statement executes a block of code if condition is true. Suppose I have given an example here, like int x equal to 10. If x is greater than a 5, I have initialized one variable x of data type int, and I have assigned a value to it as 10. And I'm writing in a one conditional statement, like if x is greater than a 5, then I need to print this statement, x is greater than 5. Okay, in our case, like x is 10, obviously 10 is greater than a 5. So this block of code will execute. If the x is 2, then this block will not execute. Okay, this is all about if statement. Let's see what is if else. If else statement means like it will execute one block of code if the condition is true, and another block of code, the contrary block of code, if condition is false. Suppose you come to an example like int x is equal to 10 here. If x is greater than a 5, it will print x is greater than a 5. Else, it will print x is less than or equal to 5. The else block will print. That means like um, in our case, x is equal to 10. Obviously, 10 is greater than 5. That's why it will print the first block. This first block will print if any other value except, suppose if x is equal to 5, that is equal, it's not greater, right? Or x is equal to 2, it is lesser, it's not greater than 5. Then it will execute this else block. Okay. Next is else if ladder or nested if loop. So this is used if you have a multiple condition to evaluate. Okay. If you see the example, our int x is equal to 10. If x is greater than 20, okay, the first block will execute, that is x is greater than 20. Else if x is greater than 10, the second block will execute. If these two conditions will not met, obviously the else block will get executed. In our case, x is equal to 10. 10 is greater than of 20. That's false. So if loop will, if condition will return a false here. It will check for else if x is 10, 10 is greater than of 10. No, 10 is equal to 10, not greater than of 10. This block will also not get executed. So it will come under else block and else block gets executed. So this is nested if for else if ladder. And the final conditional statement is switch case statement. So switch statement evaluates an expression. They will give an expression to it. It evaluates that expression. It compared it with the multiple case values we already defined and execute the matching block of code. Suppose like int of day 3, I return a switch of day. Means I'm passing 3 to here and I've written all the cases. Okay. Case 1, case 2, case 3. These 1, 2, 3 are the values. Like here, our value is day is 3. So it will come directly here, execute this day. That is Wednesday. And it will break. After if none of the cases match, it will execute this default. Default is just like a generic. If none of the condition has met, it will come to default and it will execute the default. And in switch condition, it's important we have to use a break statement. Otherwise, like if it will come to case 1, suppose if case 1 is met, if we don't put a break, it will execute rest. So that's the reason for all cases we have to must and should use break. So what is break? We'll see. We'll see next. So this is all about switch case statement. So this is all about conditional statements. So let's come to a second one, that is looping statement. Loop statement we use if you want to make our program repeatedly to do something, some necessary work. That means like we need our code to be executed repeatedly based on some conditions. Okay. In looping statement, we have three types like for loop, while loop, and do while loop. Let's see what is for loop. So for loop executes a block of code for a fixed number of times. Like in for loop, this is the syntax we use for. We need to initialize one variable int I equal to 0, and we need to give the condition that I should be less than 0, less than 5. Here I want this loop to be iterated over 5 times. So I given this condition and I plus plus. That means I need to increment. Otherwise, it will go into an infinite loop, right? Like if I is 0 and I need to iterate to 5 times, then I need to increment it by 1 every time. So that's why it will iterate five times. So this is a looping statement. So let's see the other looping statement, the while loop. So while loop we use when a block of code has to repeat as long as the condition remain true. Okay, there is no fixed time here. If conditions remains true, it will keep on running. Like I initialize one variable I after a type int, I'm initialized with 0. While I is less than 5, I just print this code and I'm giving an I plus plus. That is a post increment. That means like every time it will increment I by 1. So this is a condition I written here, like 5 times it will loop here. So in some cases, where we use while loop is we don't know when to stop. Like for loop, we can know. Like for loop, we majorly used for arrays because arrays we know the size of an array we can use. But while loop, like we use sometimes like we don't know the exact iteration count. We have some conditions. If that condition met false, it keep on execute. Okay. So the third one is do while loop. So suppose like for loop and while loop will execute only if the condition is true. Conditions are met. But do while loop is the code or is the syntax like we write here, at least once it will execute irrespective of the condition. So that means at least once it will execute first, then check the condition. So do while loop we use means like at least one time we need that code, and if the condition is met, we need repeated. In that case, we use a do while. So I initialized a variable I of type int to 0, and I use a do system.out.println, and this is the block of code I return in do block. So it will execute this. Later it will check for this condition while condition. So if its condition met, it will execute one more time. Otherwise, it will come out of the loop. The control will come out of it. So this is about looping statements. Now come about we'll see about branching statements. So these statements alter the flow of control. Like whatever the conditional statements, looping statement we see, that will actually like conditional statements. If conditions met, it will execute a block of code. For looping statements, if conditions met, that will iterate the same block of code again the number of times we what we mentioned in the condition. And the branching statement, it will alter the flow of control. Like what are branching statements? We can see here: break, continue, and return. We'll see one by one. So break, we already saw the break in switch statements. That means like it will break the flow of execution. So the break statement exits nearest closing loop in closing loop or switch. Suppose we have a for loop that has to iterate a certain number of times. So in the logic, in the code, in the block belongs to that for loop, we have a certain condition. If that condition is met, we don't need to proceed further. In that case, we can use a break. Suppose if I is equal to 5, like whatever the data what we got or the necessary of a program are met, then there is a we don't need to iterate over the full. Suppose like you take an array example. Like in an array, I need to find one value, particular value present in an array or not. Like I iterate over an array and I'll check for a condition that I'll put a one condition to check in that array. If whatever value I'm looking, if it's present in that array, I just break it there. I don't want to continue further. In that case, we can use a break. So it will alter the flow of execution. And continue. Like continue statement, actually what it will do is it will skip that current iteration of the loop and proceed with the next iteration. So you can see here, I have iterated a for loop for 10 times. And if I is equal to 5, I don't have to print. Okay, I don't have to print that word. I just have to skip it. So see, if I is equal to 5, it will continue, means it will again go with the sixth iteration. So it will every time it will print the number of iterations like 0, 1, 2, because I'm printing I here. But at the fifth letter, it will not print because it will skip it. So this is a just a demo. Like for in real time, what we'll do is like we'll check for a certain condition. Suppose in an array, we are iterating, and we'll check for a certain flag. If that flag is there, we don't need to check. Suppose if flag is true, then I don't have to check the inbuilt like object associated with it. Then I will continue the iteration. Like I don't want this object. I'm checking for something where flag is false. So in that case, this continue will be useful. So the return statement. So return statement is something like break and continue. Will just break and will just continue. Will just iterate. This return will exactly like it will come out of the loop itself. Like suppose if return statement, it exits the current method and optionally returns a value. So it can be added to like suppose I declare a method here, I add method, and I got a value like a plus b. I just have to return it. So if I can use the return will actually pass the value to a calling method. Okay, what it is and all we'll see in the program through practically. Okay, so let's code. So I have created a class control flow statements. I have included all the control flow statements like conditional statements, looping statement, and branching statement. We'll see one by one. So to demonstrate a branching statements, I have created here one more method called add. So it will return a plus b because I'm adding a two values, and it's a static because without creating an object, I need to use this, and I make it as a public because it should be accessible for every other packages or other classes. Okay. So this public static of void main, this is a main method here. So here first we'll see if else statement. If x is equal to 10, x is greater than 5. Obviously 10 is greater than 5. So this block of code will get executed. This block will not get executed. Okay. For switch case statements, if day is 3, this will get executed and it will break the control flow. If we didn't break it, it will print the rest. It will break the control flow here. If you don't have any matching condition, it will execute this default. And I have for loop written here, like for loop I initialized I with after data type int with 0, and I have given a condition like I is less than a 5, means 5 times iteration I need, and I'm incrementing I by 1. If you do, and I'm printing the I only. Yeah, I'm not doing any logic here, just printing for demo purpose. So similarly, for while loop, I initialize j with 0 and j is less than 5. I'm just iterating it 5 times. Okay. So do while loop, I'm just first printing the value here, system.out of println k is equal to 0, then I'm iterating here. So this break and continue statement, if I is equal to 5, I'm just break here. So the loop will terminate here. If I modulus of 2 equal to 0, so anything like here in my iteration, I'm checking I modulus of 2. That means any even number is there, I'm just skipping that even numbers. Continue skipping the reason. Only odd numbers I'm just printing up here. Printing up here. Okay. So return statement. The return statement a equal to 3 and b is equal to 7. I'm just creating a one variable called sum of type data type. I'm calling this method add, which we defined earlier here. So it will return a plus b. I'm just collecting an a plus b up here. Okay. Let's run the code and we'll see. So guys, as you can see, we have run it. So x is greater than a 5 and Wednesday is print. For loop statements, 5 times iteration has happened. It starts from 0 to 4. That means 5 times. And while loop iteration 5 times. And do while loop 5 times iterated. First it will print, anyway it will print 0. And conditions are met. So it will print the next 4 iterations. Break and continue, like it will give 1. And for all even numbers, it was continuing, it was skipping. And for 5, I'm just breaking up here. Yeah, yeah. So 5, I'm just breaking at 5. So breaking at 5, yeah. And rest all value will be printed up here. Okay. And sum of all for this return statement, it will return the value 10. 7 plus 3, 10. So guys, this is all about basic syntax and fundamentals of Java. So I'll briefly brush up what a concept we learned. In basic syntax and fundamentals of Java, we have saw the data types and variables in our first video. And second video, we saw about operators. And our third video, we saw about control flow statements. If you know these basic syntax and basic fundamentals of Java, now it's time for us to move into a next higher level, that is OOPS concept. So in my next video, I'll talk about OOPS concepts, and later on we'll get more dive deep into core programming language of Java. Okay. So till then, keep watching, keep learning. Thank you. Bye.